Hey everybody, Evan Freiberger here with another weather forecast, and I don't really know what's going on. I got this little weird rash thing going on my face, but just ignore it. It's like it's not there. But anyways, we're going to be going over the ice storm, the update on the ice storm. What's the latest information on that? Is it still going to be, semi-impactful, or is there been any uptrends in the models? And also going to be talking about the snow up there in the northern plains going into the Great Lakes as well. And then we're also going to talk about the potential for severe weather. But before we get started, hit that like button and consider subscribing as well. Really helps the channel out a lot. And let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, first taking a look at the broad view of the United States, you can see still have that system entering into the west coast that's going to push off to the east. And then eventually that is going to spark up some moisture advecting up into the United States here into Texas and Oklahoma City, where we're going to be expecting the start of this ice event to happen just to the west of Dallas, going up into Oklahoma City. And then pushing this forward, you can see by around 3 a.m. on the 22nd here, you can see that that starts to spread all the way up into the north, starting off in Oklahoma, going into Arkansas, Missouri, parts of Kansas as well, then moving up into Iowa with some mixed precip, some sleet possible there near Cedar Rapids, and then also maybe some snow just to the south of Davenport as well. Let's just zoom this out just a little bit here and then move this forward, pushing it forward over to 12 p.m. now. You can see that freezing precip might temporarily transition into a little bit of a rain and freezing precip kind of thing over there in Missouri, northern Arkansas as we get into 12 p.m. And then over there near Illinois as well, starting to see that freezing precip move in again. It's dangerous to have this going on right now. You know, you could have some bad travel conditions. Cars and trucks can slip around. Small potential, but still a potential for power outages are going to be possible with this, and also snap tree limbs and all of that as well. And then pushing this forward just a little bit further here, you can see that that's going to move up into the Indiana, also into Illinois, going into southern Michigan as well as we get into 12 a.m. on the 23rd. And then we start to see that that snow start to get started over there near Kansas, also in Nebraska, maybe nosing up in there just to the north of Des Moines, and then pushing this further even more over here to the about 6 a.m. here on the 23rd. You can see that we have a kind of a large area of some light to heavy snow happening south of Grand Island in Nebraska, going into Kansas, northern Missouri, kind of central southern Iowa there, northern Illinois, and then going into Wisconsin and Michigan. And then we start to see also still some snow potentially over here for Rochester, New York as well. I mean, look at this. Unfortunately, for a lot of folks, a lot of this is going to be rain and not snow or freezing precip. Still, I mean, Chicago, man, you guys have always been on that rain snow line. I don't think you're going to be getting a break from this storm. But yeah, that's going to move off to the north and east, and then potentially bring some more snow over there for the northeast. It's going to be spotty, few and far in between, but still could pick up some additional accumulation there as that moves off, and then focus down here to the south at around 3 a.m. on the 24th. We are seeing some rain down here, extending really from Houston all the way up into northern Mississippi and northern Alabama, and then we potentially could have a small severe thunderstorm threat over here going into Louisiana and Mississippi. We definitely have some kinematics in place that could call for maybe a small threat for tornadoes and damaging winds. Hail really shouldn't be an issue with this, but also going to be monitoring for that flood threat, and all these things we're going to be going over in our forecast. Then going into the pretty much the last couple of frames here at around 6 a.m. on the 25th, you can see that there is still some rain ongoing in the same areas over there. So definitely going to watch out for that potential as that storm comes in. And then shifting our focus over here to the west coast a little bit more, bringing this back, you can see we're going to have rain after rain, and then after rain, mainly up there in northern California, going into Oregon and Washington, with still some snow to fall up here in the mountainous regions. All right, looking at the snow total potential here over the next couple of days, with that little bit of snow that we're going to be getting up into the northern plains and into the Great Lakes region. The GFS is still hanging on to a little strip here. As you can see, it's cut off a lot of the snow over here for Nebraska going into Kansas, and now it's mainly going to be an event that starts over there in Iowa and kind of northern Missouri, and then that little band of snow is going to move into southern Wisconsin with potentially 4 to 5 inches, maybe a little bit more as you get further down to the south. Also, northern Illinois could pick up on to 2 to 3 inches there, still highlighting that spot for potentially up to 9 inches of snow in this little spot here for Michigan, and then 4 to 5 inches above that, 4 to 5 inches below that, kind of cutting off right before you get to the border of Michigan Michigan, and Indiana and Ohio. So still kind of the same picture, just a little bit cut off here from where it was before. Comparing this to the Euro, you can see that the Euro also cut off that bit of snow as well on the backside there. And then, it's still kind of conservative here, a lot smaller of a strip of snow, mainly over here in Iowa, going into Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and then into Michigan, with some lower amounts, potentially 2 to 4 inches down there in southern Wisconsin, and then also 2 to 4 inches in this small little strip here in Iowa, and then over there in that kind of that one spot, maybe 5, and a little tiny isolated area of 6 inches there in Michigan, with 3 to 4 inches after that. All right, moving this a little bit further to the east here on the GFS, you can see that snow continues into Canada and then pushes into New York here, mainly for like the central, southern, and then kind of just leaving out the southeastern portion of New York. But a widespread area of 2 to 3 inches is going to be possible over most of the state, with an exception of this one isolated spot over here with about 5 to 6 inches expected, kind of just to the east of Watertown, and then to the east in Vermont and New Hampshire, going into Massachusetts, northern Connecticut, and northern Rhode Island, still picking up on those 2 to 3 inches there. But again, still a big question mark over here, as this is kind of in the end of the model run, but still almost in the range of accuracy. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that to see if we get any upticks or downticks when it comes to that. Then looking at the Euro, you can see the main differences between the Euro and the GFS is not really the placement of the snow, but just how much you're going to get. So over here in New York, maybe a widespread area of 2 to 3 inches. And then as we get into like Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire, talking about a dusting to maybe an inch in some of the higher elevations. All right, now talking about the ice accumulations out there, I really do think the GFS has a good handle on this event. And as you can see, it's showing a kind of a widespread area of about 1/10 of an inch. And then as we get into some parts there, just to the south of Oklahoma City, moving into eastern Oklahoma there, we have this little strip of potentially 1/4 of an inch of ice out there. And then moving into Arkansas, potentially 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch in some isolated spots. And then GFS is signaling this hot spot over here, but over here in southern Missouri, but it's still not as bullish as the Euro, which we'll look at here in just a second. But I mean, we're still talking just above 1/4 of an inch, almost a 1/2 an inch of ice, which is definitely going to be one of the more impactful areas out of the storm. There is some agreement, at least, that this is going to be the hot spot of the ice fall here. And then moving this into the rest of Missouri, about 1/10 of an inch, then going into Illinois, could have some spots, really for most of the state of Illinois, of around 1/10 of an inch, with some isolated spots there, potentially reaching 1/4 of an inch. And then comparing this to the Euro, I mean, look at this. I mean, the Euro is still bullish on this spot here in Missouri, and it is kind of, it is approaching that danger zone of ice where you could see, I mean, if this falls here in southern Missouri, we could definitely see some power outages, major road disruptions, and also some tree limbs being like falling down. So definitely a bad event up there in southern Missouri, according to the Euro. But if you compare it to the GFS and the NAM, Euro's kind of an outlier. It's kind of an outlier. I would say the NAM's a little bit of an outlier in terms of not being bullish enough. And then over here near Dallas, Texas, it's saying that's where the heaviest icing will occur. But you can see just like a widespread disagreement in terms of how much icing is going to fall. The Euro and the GFS kind of got the area right, but then they're disagreeing on the amounts of icing. So still kind of a wide range of possibilities here. You're either going to get a lot of icing or not a whole lot in a lot of these different spots. All of these models, really from kind of Texas going into Dallas, up into Oklahoma and Missouri, up into Illinois, they're all kind of indicating something like that, except for the GFS and the Euro model aren't really talking about Dallas or Texas really at all. And this is the reason why we look at multiple models, because they all give different scenarios. Just looking at one model doesn't really give you a good picture of what could happen, but looking at all of them, you can definitely get a better understanding of what the possibilities are of the storm. It's always good to have a range of expectations instead of expecting an exact thing to happen. Speaking of that, let's kind of move off to the east with the storm. And as you can see, as the storm moves a little bit further to the east and starts dropping some more freezing precip, it's not going to be nearly as impactful. We're talking about, maybe 2/10 of an inch and then 1/10 of an inch over there in Pennsylvania, but everywhere else, really receiving kind of non-noticeable icing with this storm. Euro paints the same picture, and then the NAM paints the same picture there. So some agreement there, at least on the latter half of the storm, But at the very beginning here, big disagreements still, and I'm leaning more to the GFS. Definitely some impacts possible, but nothing that these areas won't be able to get over, especially with some warmer temperatures coming in the backside. But there are some dangers with road conditions, but they don't have to be. Don't drive when this is happening again. This is going to start on the 22nd. Just take that day off, stay at home, and if you have to drive, drive very slowly and watch out for those other drivers. If they're going fast and there's ice in the road, could definitely be a problem. Now, looking at the winter severity index here, that kind of shows what the impacts of this ice is going to be in comparison to the infrastructure's ability to handle this much ice. And as you can see, we do have some areas out here with a moderate impact. A moderate impact means hazardous driving conditions. Use extra caution while driving. Closures and disruptions to infrastructures may occur in these orange regions. And we have highlighted over here Ardmore, Sulphur, Ada there in Oklahoma. Over here in Arkansas, we have a couple spots indicated here: Hatfield, Wicks, and then over here just to the east of Fort Smith, and parts of Fort Smith are in this. That is going to be Cedarville, Mountainburg, Alma, Mulberry, Lavaca, Charleston, Ozark, Coal Hill, Paris, Clarksville, and then Stillwell, Oklahoma. And then over here in southern Missouri, potentially some impacts. And again, this is going to be one of those areas that might last second get one of those major impacts. Little small zone there, but you can see Seymour, Ava, Squires, and Norwood are in those moderate impacts, and then everybody else is in minor impacts, which is essentially means winter driving conditions. Use caution while driving. Really not a big deal for really anybody other than these highlighted regions here. So just make sure that you have a plan in place if you live in these orange areas to deal with maybe about a day or so of bad driving conditions. So maybe having some extra water and some extra food. Definitely don't go in this event on the last little bits of your stocks of supplies as it comes through, because you will be disappointed if the roads become closed. All right, looking at our greens and yellows here, trying to find where we're going to have enough fuel for some severe weather. Pushing this forward into the 22nd, not really too much there. Maybe a little building up there in Houston, south of San Antonio, but we're really not expecting the storm to be really organized enough to produce much severe weather on this day. Maybe a little teeny tiny risk, but uncertainty still prevails. So we're probably not going to get a marginal risk, maybe like a last minute kind of deal. But we're definitely not expecting anything more than like damaging wind threat out of this. And then pushing this through, you can see, definitely could have a small area still of some elevated, fuel for storms right around the Baton Rouge and New Orleans area. But let me tell you guys, this is a really small area of fuel available for these storms. And not only that, we're not going to really see too much lift in the atmosphere as these storms come through. So also, got a little bit of a linear line here, and what that essentially means is that a lot of the storms are going to be fighting for those ingredients that are going to be available for severe weather, and really none of them will become a dominant storm. So maybe a small tornado risk could appear out of this. I mean, we still have that spin in the atmosphere there in the lower levels and in the upper levels here, indicated by these greens and light yellows there. So definitely some severe potential, but I really do think it's going to be more on the marginal side. Some damaging winds are going to be possible, and I think the main threat with this storm is going to be that flooding. Again, if we bring this all the way back to the beginning here, we have rain after rain after rain for kind of some of the same areas, and then we're still looking at this little area right there extending from Memphis into central Louisiana that's just going to kind of be dropping a lot of rain for multiple hours there, and we really got to watch that area on the 24th, and that's the same day that severe weather could be happening as well for a flood threat as those storms come through. So we'll be talking about that here next, so let's get to it. So looking at the hydrological outlook for tomorrow, you can see that we do have an area here highlighted for some flooding potential. It's a small potential, 1 out of 4, but Waco, Killen, Austin, Kerrville, San Antonio, Victoria, Corpus Christi, definitely expect some heavy rain with that. Then moving into day 3, we have a larger area for flooding. This is a 2 out of 4 here in the yellow, and you can see Tyler, Shreveport, parts of Arkansas, Hope, Texarkana, Camden, and El Dorado, going down into Beaumont, Houston, Galveston, and Victoria. So definitely watch out there. And then we also have a marginal risk around that, extending from Arkansas down into Louisiana, some parts of Mississippi, and over there near San Antonio, Austin, Killeen, and Waco as well. In this yellow area, could definitely see some flood warnings, so definitely keep an eye out for that. And then then going over to day 4 here, you can see that there is yet another slight risk, kind of in a similar zone, shifted a little bit to the east, includes a little bit more of Mississippi in that 2 out of 4 there for the risk of flooding and heavy rain. So definitely have your eyes on this. I do think some of these days might have the potential to upgrade to a moderate or maybe even a high risk if that little line of storms just kind of stalls, just like the models are saying. So gotta monitor the models for those flooding issues out there, and hopefully they fall apart and it's not really a big deal. But as of right now, we do have a slight risk over there, and then we also have another slight risk. Again, moving a little bit more to the east here, but kind of in the same areas, but this time extending a little bit into Alabama, Tennessee, and southern Alabama there, and also including just to the kind of like the southern eastern portion of Arkansas, Louisiana, then over there near Beaumont. Then we have a marginal risk really extending from Houston all the way up into Richmond, Kentucky, down into Knoxville, parts of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama, and parts of Florida there. So a small risk of flooding in the green, a little bit more elevated there in the yellow. So definitely got to monitor this event for that flooding potential, because again, flooding can be more dangerous than even a tornado. You get one of those big floods and it can cause a lot of damage to property, and unfortunately sometimes a lot of loss of life. So definitely got to monitor these storms as they come in, especially with that rainfall. So you're probably wondering, well, how much rain exactly are we talking about here? Is it going to be a little couple of inches? Is it going to be maybe 4 or 5 inches? Well, 4 to 5 inches, yeah, for a lot of people. I mean, over here near Shreveport, down in Tyler, 4 to 5 inches is going to be possible. Over there near Houston as well, just to the east of Austin, just to the east of San Antonio. But look over here with this pink strip. We could potentially have a kind of a decent sized area of 7 to 8 inches possible here in central Mississippi. You know, this is that area, that's that line of storms that just kind of stalled there. Again, this is that area that we've really got to watch for that flood potential. So definitely keep your eye out on the latest forecast if you live really anywhere from, central Mississippi down into Louisiana. Also maybe over here near Greenville and Monroe, just in case this shifts a little bit to the east, and maybe over there near Meridian and south of Jackson, just in case this, to the west. I meant to the west over here. And just in case this shifts to the east, watch out over there near Meridian and south of Jackson. But yeah, I mean, a widespread area of 4 to 5 inches are going to be possible. These are going to fall mostly over the next couple of days. So, a lot of these areas won't really see like an extreme flash flood threat with these storms. But over here, definitely looks concerning, as that could fall a little bit quicker and could cause maybe a little bit of a bigger flood situation. So definitely got to monitor where this goes in the future. All right. Last but not least, we're going to be looking at the temperatures across the United States, which is going to be important for determining what the impacts long term for these this icing event that's about to happen in the parts of the country here. And then, so let's go ahead and push this forward. You can see those negative degree temperatures are really going to start to die off and not really make a return. And then by 12 p.m. on the 22nd, those temperatures are really going to start to get up into those below or over those below freezing temperatures. Really anything under this line here is going to be above freezing. So that's pretty good. A lot of people are going to be above freezing. And this area right here, right around this time, is when, that ice storm is going to be kind of ejecting up into the northern portions of the Ohio Valley. So you can see pretty much immediately after the icing starts, we're going to have warmer temperatures move into, unfreeze the frozen roads. So that'll be good. And then pushing this even further, you can see those temperatures really only warm up in the next day, with those above freezing temperatures only are really below these lines. So if you don't live in this area and you don't live up here, you're going to be experiencing above freezing. And so we're going to have that icing on the ground, probably not for very long. It'll melt within a day, most likely in some of these areas. So, although we could have some pretty decent impacts, especially if the Euro is right, most of these areas can deal with that much icing, and it's going to melt very fast. Moving into the 24th here, you can see kind of impressive area of heat moves into the country for this time of year. I mean, really widespread 50s and 60s everywhere in this circle here. And then, really everywhere in this area here is kind of in the 40s as well. So widespread area of a lot warmer temperatures than what we've been dealing with. I mean, some of these areas have been in the negatives. So we're talking about a temperature change in between those coldest temperatures that we experienced with this Arctic outbreak, and now of about 70 degrees as this new area of warmth starts to work into the country. And it's going to be, warming up pretty much everywhere. And then pushing into the 25th, you can see that warm really starts to pick up. Look at over here near Florida, potentially 80-degree temperatures widespread around Florida, those 60-degree temperatures reaching all the way up into Richmond and Virginia Beach, and then 60-degree temperatures reaching all the way over into Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama. So, a lot warmer down here in the southeast, with maybe even some 50-degree temperatures working up into the Ohio Valley and part of the Central Plains. So, a big warm up is here. All right. Well, that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. See ya.